And here we are, live on a Tuesday night for Triple T Talk Time with TJ on February 17th, 2026. This is Triple T number 216. Holy smokehouse, as Grandpa used to say. My name is TJ Zebel. I like to call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking the right questions to help people find the solutions for the challenges they're up against. I want to thank you guys for joining in or watching the replay on this. If you're one of the ones out on YouTube, you'll understand if you've been around Planet TJ, where I get to say, "Hi, Mom." Mom up in Minnesota. Yeah, that's where I'm from. And for the rest of you on YouTube, I'd appreciate it if you could help me out with a couple of the little YouTube things. Doesn't cost you a single dime or a penny, even though they've gotten rid of pennies. All I ask you to do is click the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know that when we're back on the air, and like some videos and leave some comments. I would really appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything, but it sure helps the channel out, and I enjoy reading the comments. You can also, while you're online, go and check out my website at www.thetswb.com, thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. Yes, that's what it stands for. Has since way before the internet, so if you find anything else that says anything other than the tall skinny white boy for TSWB, that is not me. TSWB is me, and I am him, and he is I. On my website you will find all sorts of interesting stuff that I get to help people with, such as depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, grief. I get to work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level. I offer corporate coaching, and I've been doing a lot of relationship work that has been very popular for especially got another client after what I call Singles Awareness Day. The rest of you call it Valentine's Day. And it's funny how many people have given me pushback from calling it that. They're like, "But you're married." And I said, "Yes, and I'm very aware of it." So happy belated Singles Awareness Day to everybody. And if you know somebody that's single and doesn't want to be, have them get a hold of me. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. And in those 30 minutes, we can chit-chat about what kind of challenges you're up against. And if I feel like I'm a fit, I can help you, I'll let you know. And if I feel like I'm not a fit, I promise you I will also let you know, and I'll do my best to help you find the correct person to get you the solutions that you are looking for. I guess it's time for us to introduce the tie of the week. Yes, I do this every week since the very first episode in 2004. We've been going longer than 2004, but the first episode in 2004 is when I started showing a different tie every week throughout the year. Yes, I have that many ties, and I've actually had some people watching the channel send me ties, and if you do, let me know who you are so I can give you a thank you shout out. This one I've had for quite a while. I know you guys are going to recognize these fine characters, some of my favorites. Oh yeah. Once again, I got a little poo on my tie, little T-I double little Eeyore. Oh bother. So there's the tie of the week. Now it's time to see who's got something to share from the last 7 days since we were here. Who's got something cool to share? All right, Mark, right out of the gates.
Yeah, well, I just before I logged on and I talked to a young man, and I've got a new client. Yay! Again, I find that the shelves restock themselves from time to time. but
Yes.
I tried to make my Valentine's Day special for my partner in crime, my wife, and I did all the usual things with the um, with the card and the flowers and the chocolates and the chocolate covered strawberries. But I
Mm.
went the extra mile this year. I filled her tank with gas. I cooked dinner and I washed all the floors in the house. So, so
Good
I asked
man.
her, I said, do you like the kind of Valentine's boyfriend that gives you all the cards and the flowers and the, uh, and what do you like the kind of Valentine's boyfriend that cooks your meal and fills your tank and washes the floors? She says, her response to me is, well, I don't have to decide because I have both.
Great answer. What a concept.
So yeah, I guess I'm the real deal. But yeah, that was again that just try to make it special,
Yep.
you know. And um yes, I am that guy. Like I said, my friends used to say I set the bar way too high.
It's good.
Meanwhile, we're cheering you on, and I think it's a wonderful bar.
Yes,
A
Thank you.
plus plus.
exactly.
The wife only gave me an A. I asked for a grade. She said
All right, maybe she doesn't do pluses. Maybe it's like a 2026 thing.
A. Oh,
Cool. Who else has something cool to share from the last 7 days? Anybody? Anybody? Lenora.
Hi, my friends. I missed you all terribly. I do have something cool to share, but also like not cool to share. Um,
Or?
yeah, so the cool thing is I started to send out some messages a little bit more in alignment with what I like. So, social media has not been my thing lately, but I still found a way to make a video and send it out to people who resonate very, very much with me. And I'm pretty sure everybody in this group got it. So, thank you all for your messages back, and it makes my heart so happy. So, thank you for that. And on a not so cool note, I was struggling with the puppy today, and the puppy has been anywhere from like super, super sweet to also like Malinois. So I had to unfortunately cancel my entire day and emergently take her to a board and train because the stuff that our trainer was having us do at home just she was a little resistant and my hands have been taking a beating to say the least. So send happy energies to the trainer that he will help and that we will get a puppy that's a lot better.
Yes.
And she's like 95% adorable and then 5% Blue, the raptor from Jurassic Park. So in case you needed a gauge as to what was going on, that's where we are at 15 weeks. I love that trainer is
Jeez.
over there giggling.
It's
sheep,
a darn
sheep
good
get
thing
like
with
shepherd. Sheep get like shepherd. Shepherd like sheep. It sounds like that your puppy is like the owner. 95% sweet and then 5% raptor.
Oh my God, that's probably really, really accurate. And the fact that we also named her Phoenix, as in like rising. Yeah, there's a feistiness in her. So
Yes.
now you're caught up on
That's
my
why
life.
God made puppies, children, kittens
Very cute.
so cute so they can actually live long enough to become adults because if they came out just like adults but acted like that,
A lot less would make it.
yeah, there'd be a yeah.
So
Holly.
I have a win I want to share. So I forever have been using this excuse of I only have a half hour for lunch, so I can't like take the time to eat right. But every single day this week, I brought. It's so funny. I brought my my cutting board, my knives, my veggies, all that stuff, and I actually prepped meals every single day this last week. So, yeah, it doesn't take as long as I thought it did. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was tight, but it can be done. So that was exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people have been brainwashed into believing that eating healthy requires a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of dedication, and all the above. I think it just requires a little more training and unprogramming. And the information is so prevalent now. You know, it's not like back in the day and this when we were growing up where you could find you heard about some nutrition book, but you had to go to the library, hope it was there, read it, figure out what it actually meant, and then figure out how to apply it. Now you've only got 6 trillion videos on YouTube, and everybody's a specialist. Yes, Mike, I think the biggest thing is prepping for your future self to succeed. Yes, exactly. Making the decision. And it's interesting because, don't get me wrong, I have not always been a healthy eater. I look back at some of my bachelor days, and thank goodness I learned how to cook early on. But even then, some of the stuff I ate, and growing up in Minnesota, where they classify Mountain Dew as an all-day drink. Oh, yeah, Michael, you are so correct. Same, man. After not drinking pop, or as you guys call it, soda or whatever, for so long, I went back to Minnesota for a visit. It's been about 5 years now. And it was a good hot summer day, and I was thirsting, stopped by to see a buddy of mine who's true Minnesotan, and I said, man, you got something to drink? I'm thirsting. He goes, let me check in the shop cooler. All I got is Mountain Dew. Really? All right. That first sip of that syrup, holy banana peels, Batman! How did I drink? I could only force my way through half the can.
Yeah.
And by the time I got halfway through the can, I had an energy but I could have mowed the lawn with a fingernail clipper. A big lawn, and it would have been perfectly smooth. I was like, sugar, nicotine, sugar, nicotine, sugar, nicotine, sugar. And he downed, I don't know if it was his third can of the day, or like, wow. Okay. Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. How many people remember Jolt Cola?
Oh, yeah.
Twice the sugar, twice the nicotine, or the caffeine.
Yes.
Yeah. Great stuff, especially on cornflakes.
Yeah. Cold, sugary, same amount of caffeine as a pot of coffee. Whee!
I never drank a Jolt Cola. I
Uh,
already had super juice, so I'm like, no Jolt Cola.
yeah, I did back in the day when I was DJing. Thought I needed the extra energy. Yeah.
So real quick, I got one thing to say, if you don't mind. I sent you a picture. Did you see the picture? Via text?
Oh.
Like yesterday?
Oh, okay. You had me wondering there. I was like, let me look.
Did you recognize the place? Nope, did I lose you?
Oh, I remember seeing it, but I didn't have time to study it.
Ah, it's where
Ah,
we met.
really?
It is where we met. Yes, sir.
Right
I
on.
had some friends come to California to see an ABBA tribute band, and they were staying at that hotel, and I went over there, and I'm like, holy smokes, where I
That's
met
awesome.
TJ.
Yeah, that was a couple of suns ago.
Yes, sir. So
Oh, that's
just letting you
cool.
know, thinking good thoughts
Oh
about you,
yeah,
something like
there
that.
it is.
So
Now I know what I'm looking at. Yes.
yes,
Yep,
so
couple of suns, couple of moons ago.
yep.
And Mike's comment about the drinks. I'm still buzzing from it from the 80s. Yes. Every now and then I still have flashbacks where I can see a can of Mountain Dew now and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Anybody else got anything they want to share from the last 7 days? I do have to let you guys know that I had somebody that watched my videos and they noticed that my eyes are constantly going all over the place. And I had to explain to them, I'm not sitting in front of a laptop. I actually have a 50-inch uh, high-res television as my monitor. So some of you are up there, and one's over here, and one's down there, and one's over there, and one's there. And I also have my surveillance monitor over here where sometimes stuff is going on there and I got the dogs running in the backyard. So I apologize if I look like I'm actually buzzing from a Jolt and a Mountain Dew, but it's just because I'm keeping an eye on everything that's going on in front of my face. So, other than that, sounds like it's about time to get into the topics of the week. I'll let you, if anybody is that's watching is new to Triple T and Planet TJ, or watching the recording for the first time, the way it works, it's a 2-hour show. First hour, I do my best to get through 3 topics that I've picked for the week. And then second hour, we change gears and it's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a topic or ask a question, and I let anybody on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And after everybody has answered, if I still have something I feel is of value, that's when I toss in my 2 centavos. So without further ado, let's get into the topics of the week. Topics for Triple T number 216, stories, lessons, and relative. Getting into stories. How many of you have met a really good storyteller? I mean, the kind of, when they start telling a story, you're just, even if you didn't want to hear the story, or you've heard the story 10 times, as soon as they start telling that story, you're just like, and you just want to listen again. And I've been blessed, beyond blessed, to know quite a number of those type of people. And some of it comes to people naturally, but I can tell you it is a learnable trait. And the first thing that I'm finding that people need to learn is your stories matter. If they're your stories, they matter. And I know a number of you have heard this story from me a number of times, but when I was young, one of our neighbors was Grandpa Hugh. And Grandpa Hugh had done everything. He had been everywhere. Thank goodness he had the pictures to back it up, because some of the stories that he had would be really hard to believe coming from our big town in Minnesota of 187 people. Like, how did you live all these lives and land in Miltona? But when Grandpa Hugh'd start telling a story, suck you right in. And one day, he was sitting there telling me one of his amazing stories, and he stopped about halfway through the story, and he looked at me, and he was kind of quiet, and he goes, I know that the people in town make fun of me because of all the stories I have to tell. He said, but when you get to be my age, if you can't talk about yourself and your adventures, all you have left to talk about is what everybody else is doing. So live a life that's full enough that when you get to be my age, you don't need to talk about other people, because you'll have so many stories of your own adventures to tell. And that has hit me, that has stuck with me ever since. And I've had clients that I've coached for public speaking, and one of the things I told them, tell your story. It's your story. Nobody can tell your story better than you. Well, no, if I tell them what I did, they're a much better storyteller. They may be a better storyteller, but they can't tell your story better than you. So if you're worried about being a great storyteller, then learn how to become a great storyteller. A lot of times it's that inner critic, that inner voice, that wonderful little voice that tells you all those lies about all the things that you can't do and about what could go wrong and blah, 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 blah. And once you get past them, you'll find out that there are a lot of stories that people would love to hear about you. And it always amazes me that the number of people that can tell you stories about other people. Yeah, we call it gossip. But they have a hard time telling stories about themselves. And yet, when I start working with them and we start focusing on the good things from their life, oh, how the stories flow. Oh, this one time with my best friend, we blah, 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 blah. I went, see, that's a story. Yeah, but it's not very interesting. I've been interested. Yeah, but you could tell it better than me. No, I can't. I wasn't there. I might be able to tell it with more inflections or be able to roll out more humor, but that's practice. Oh, but you're so much better at voices. That's practice. I prove that when I have them go through what I've now called the Disney protocol, where I have them bring up some of the most vile, vicious, nasty things that people have ever said to them, and I make them say it in the voices of Mickey Mouse and then Goofy and then Minnie Mouse. And when they have to repeat those words in those voices, pretty soon they're totally cracking up, saying things that have haunted them and made them cry numerous times ever since they were said to them. And I point out to them, it wasn't the words. It was the story and the energy you attached to the words. So if it's simply a story, stories can be changed. Stories can be made up. That's where the power of Hollywood and all the best books and stuff are from. Great stories. And where did they come from? A lot of them came from a cross between experience and embellishing on experiences, and then embellishing a little more on experiences with a little bit of fantasy included, and pretty soon, voila, you got Snow White. Mark.
Yeah, to add on to what you were saying, I think it was Dr. David Snyder of NLP.com that I think he was talking about storytelling. He said the 5 most powerful words in the English language are, let me tell you a story. That's for adults. For kids, it's once upon a time.
Once upon a time.
And a squirrel whispered in my ear about that's what you do when you do cognitive restructuring. Okay. Without, he was in 5th grade. I got very embarrassed. We were assigned silent reading by a sub, and the kids were making a lot of noise. So I stuck my fingers in my ear and I started reading the story. And I guess I was saying it out loud. So, and I looked up and everybody was staring at me. And so I felt acute embarrassment. And then they said later on down the road, I restructured that story. I retold it to myself in a good way. You know, that I got up on the desk and I was singing, doing an oration, and and the kids gave me a standing ovation.
Yes.
You know, and I think it was Adler that he talked about cognitive restructuring, and I think if you can retell, a less than positive story, you can rewrite it and reframe it and restructure it so it becomes a good story. So,
100%. Yeah.
So now when that incident is triggered, I go to the retold story rather than the original story.
And when you understand the concept of grapevine stories, I don't know if any of you have ever played, it's been called numerous different names. In fact, if you've got a different name for it, I'd love to hear it. But where you have a line of people, and the person at the end gets a little storyline, and they whisper it in the ear of the person next to them, who whispers it in the telephone. Yes, that's another one I've heard. Yeah. And the chances that the story at the last person matches the story of the first person, very slim. Well, it's almost the same as us telling ourselves the story over and over again. Sometimes we accidentally add some information in there, or we accidentally omit some information, and pretty soon the story that we're telling isn't really close to what actually happened. And I've seen it enough times where you at family get-togethers. Oh, I remember that time when da 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 da, and somebody's like, "Nah, that's not how it happened. It happened like this, da 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 da," and then somebody from the other side of the table goes, "No, you're both wrong." Blah da da. Yeah, broken telephone. Yes, party line. And so, if it's that easy for us to mix up a story, then it can be that easy for us to mix up the bad stuff that we think we remember from our past and tell a better story. And if it's only for us, who the heck's going to correct us? And if they do, they didn't remember it right. You were there. Mark.
They say that even traumatic memories are only 40 to 45% accurate, Yeah. That's why it's, So what the hell are the rest of our memories? How accurate are the rest of them? If the dramatic ones are only 45% accurate, every time we tell a story, I think we change it, mutate it, morph it into something else, change a word here or there, So, like I said, they can be very powerful life lessons if you, but when we try to recall a memory, this is why I don't take witness statements at car accidents anymore. Oh, the car was black. No, it was blue. No, it was brown. It was a, Hispanic. No, it was a black guy. No, it was a, white guy. They don't even we can't even remember something that just happened with any accuracy. So, like I said, but I think the stories we tell ourselves define who we are. How's that for a quotable quote?
100%. And that's the best part and the worst part about that. The worst part is a lot of people find a really bad, sad, terrible story and tell it, and they don't even know how much they embellish on it. But they feel horrible every time they recall it, bring it up, talk about it, not realizing that they have the power to edit the story. And that's one of the things that we get to do. And it doesn't mean that you say that, oh yeah, that I had this motorcycle wreck and the story is I broke my leg. Now I can rewrite the story like, no, I didn't crash. I slid a little bit and I was fine. I never broke my leg. No, you have to hang on to a little bit of the facts on some of it. But there's still enough of it that can be rewritten so that it's much easier to deal with. Anybody else got any input, ahas, epiphanies on Holly?
So one of the things I've learned, a lot of people will say, I have no stories to tell. And if you are saying that to yourself, I would say, go into the memories, go into the stories that you've been hiding from. Mm-hmm. What are your most embarrassing moments? And then What if your most embarrassing moment was funny? Tell the story. It's going to be a great story. And by telling it, you get perspective on it. By telling it, you realize, hey, I'm not alone. This was actually relatable. People actually laughed at it. People actually also found that to be awkward, whatever it may be. That could be extremely healing. Go through, what was the most difficult thing I ever had to do that was hard, and what if it was profound? And it's funny because, when you're going into it and you start telling your story, yeah, okay, I'm just pretending. But by the end, your embarrassing moment is funny. By the end, your struggle was profound. And, you could do that for any of your memories. I also point out, too, when we're talking about editing your memories, we're talking about, like, the actual memory. We're not talking about, lying about the memory and remembering it a different way. But, just that shift of perspective of telling your story also helps you learn from the story, also helps you heal from the story. So, and I will also throw this out there. If you don't have any embarrassing moments, you don't have any challenges, you don't have, maybe it's time to look at yourself and say, why am I hiding from life? Why am I refusing to have any experiences? Because you could change that tomorrow. You could go out, and I'm not saying go out and purposely embarrass yourself necessarily, but, go out where you have a risk of being embarrassed and do it over and over again until you have a story. And it will help you in a lot of other ways, too.
Yes. And being able to laugh at yourself and at the things that happened to you that were less than yay is a very powerful capacity to get through life. And I'm trying to remember, Lenora put in the comments, isn't that the Yes Man movie with Jim Carrey?
He goes out and he goes out and he just says yes to everything. So like skydiving, cooking class, like yes to absolutely everything. So that's what it made me think of when Holly said about stories. If you don't have any stories, you can go out and change that tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
Say yes to everything.
Very much so. Mark.
Yeah, I always found it curious that when we have a traumatic story to tell, we'll be able to recall it pretty accurately, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9, but there's something about our mind that won't let us remember the actual trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Everything leading up to it is kind of burned into memory, but the actual trauma itself seems to be something our mind refuses to face. So when people are, telling their tale of woe, they don't actually remember the exact the trauma itself, but they remember everything leading up to it.
Self-preservation.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I know a number of people that say that they're horrible joke tellers. And I've met some people that are not very good joke tellers because of the personality that they've created for themselves. And yet, it's funny because sometimes they need a little liquid courage, or they need the right group to understand their humor, or something like that. But I love watching people that make it a goal to figure out how to be funny, how to tell some of the stories, and learn how to tell a joke. With bartending and all the things I've done, entertaining, I love telling jokes. In fact, I told one Thursday night at a meeting, and I think I first told that joke when I was 19, 20, so like 5 years ago. So it's a pretty old joke. But you guys want to hear it? Up for a joke? Okay. So there's this pastor. Okay, everybody that just went, oh, religious. No, just hear me out. So there's this pastor that loved to golf. I mean, it was his second love, of course, behind the church. And this one summer, the weather just would not cooperate. Every time he had a chance to go golfing, it was raining or it was blowing like crazy or something. Now it's late fall, and he knows his opportunity to go get any golf in at all this year is dwindling quickly. And to make matters even worse, the weather report says the next good day, not just a good day, like the perfect day, perfect day, was next Sunday. And he's like, oh. And so he thought, and he fought with himself, and finally he couldn't take it anymore, so he called in sick. And early Sunday morning, packed his clubs in his trunk and drove way away to a course where nobody would recognize him. Well, now his guardian angel's up in heaven watching this all go down, and he's just like, this ain't good. This ain't good. So the guardian angel tried to figure out what he should do, and finally he just went to God and goes, God, I know you're very busy with creation and all this stuff, but could you help me with this situation? And God goes, don't worry, I got this. So the pastor gets out to the first tee and schwack, hole in one. Pastor does his, oh my goodness, I haven't had a hole in one ever. And he's dancing, gets to the next tee, schwack, hole in one. And the pastor can't believe it. He is just ecstatic. Hole 3, schwack, hole in one. Hole 4, hole 5, hole 6, 7, 8. And his guardian angel sitting there watching. He's like, what? So he looks at God and he goes, God, I know you're all-knowing and everything, but please just help me understand. Why are we rewarding him for doing this? And God looked at guardian angel and said, well, think about it. Who's he going to tell? Really, Pastor? 18 holes in one. Where was this? What day? So be careful what you wish for. Holly.
You know, that reminds me a perfect example of it. I've been watching a lot of comics, and they'll talk about their approach to the comedic process. And they talk about how every single time they go out, they test drive a few jokes. And so, you know, and they go somewhere that's a little bit low stakes, somewhere that, you know, maybe it's just a comedy night and a, you know, yeah, they're this big famous comedian, international star, but go to a, you know, an amateur night and play with some new jokes and then see how the audience reacts. Then take, you know, have a goal to throw away 10% of your material. Then rewrite the next 10% of your material, whatever, you know, do it in a slightly different way. And if you keep doing that, eventually you get, you know, a gold file that has been tested and out there. You've told it every which way, so you know exactly where the pauses should be, exactly where the comedic timing should be, you know exactly where to hit each of the emotional moments. But that doesn't just, you know, I think when I was younger, I always assumed these brilliant comedians, they were just brilliant and they got it right the first time. No, even the very best who do it as a professional and internationally, they still go out and they still have material that bombs and they still have material that they throw out of their file. And the way they know what works and what doesn't work, they say they have some jokes they thought would never work in a million years, and they end up being some of their core jokes. And they have other jokes that they thought would be the best joke ever, and it just bombed and couldn't work anywhere. So, you know, it's okay. If your joke or your story doesn't work the first time, go out and practice again. Go out, you're learning your technique, and you're learning the stories, and you're learning what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, Seinfeld was notorious for that. he, and Lenore's like, yeah, he was seen in a lot of places like that. Even after he made it big, he'd put on a little disguise and go test it, and there were a few people like, oh, that's Seinfeld. So yes, lots of Lenora.
I was gonna wait.
Oh,
I'm actually gonna drop it in the chat. Because I find it to be fascinating when comedians, I think, if not when you're on stage, I personally think the most incredible people are comedians. They are a one-person show with one stool, one microphone, and one bottle of water, and they are amazing, absolutely phenomenal. And there has been a number of interviews of Jerry Seinfeld over the years, and he would line yellow, like, I think they took this one shot of him where he had all his scrap paper and it was lined yellow, like notepad paper on tablet paper, and they just lined the street of his jokes, and ones that were good, ones he thought were going to do good, ones that failed, and how did he did, and he would go and test from them, and it's absolutely fascinating. And I used to think that I couldn't tell a story. I used to think I couldn't tell a story. And this is something like I carried for a very long time. And just always when I would sit there growing up and my family around me would tell a story, everybody else was funnier. And you could just see this blank stare no matter what it was. I could have been at the table. I could have been across a coffee table. I could have been standing in the kitchen. Just this blank stare. And so I somehow came up with the idea that I was not a good storyteller. And when I started to learn more about speaking, especially thanks to TJ and then Holly Mignosi, she was absolutely fantastic. When you study the art of telling a story, and yes, the hypnotic inductions of Once Upon a Time, but the art of telling a story is super, super powerful, super, super helpful. And last but not least, no baby that I know of has ever come out of the womb telling a story with all their language. So, proof that it is something you can absolutely get better at.
100%. 100%. And Mark asked, could you say a good comedian is also a good hypnotist? Yes. Yeah, because it takes the people out of the trance. And I've told this story before about how comedy and stories are medicine, very important medicine. We had a Christian comedian come to our church, and he was talking about, he was a struggling comedian at the time, and got contacted to see if he would be interested in doing 3 shows at a hospital. And immediately it was like, shows, yes, need the money. And they're like, well, it's a non-paying show. And he was like, oh. And his wife reminded him, it'd be good practice, whatever, get out there, get some exposure. And so he did it, and he found out the night that he did his first show that it was actually a cancer ward. And so he did the first show and the second show, and even more people were showing up. And the third show, the place was packed. And when he got done, and this, I get choked up every time I tell this story, a lady came up to him and she said, I hope you understand how important what you're doing is and how powerful what you do is. She said, I showed up the first night because I didn't want to be in my room, and I'm in pain 24/7. The drugs they have barely touches it. And when I went back to my room that night, I realized I didn't hurt for 2 hours. And so I kind of wrote it off and thought, that can't be. And so I came last night. And for 2 hours I laughed and I didn't feel pain. And tonight, same thing. Don't ever stop what you're doing. That's how powerful stories can be. Yes, laughter is the best medicine. Storytelling is hypnosis. Comedy is storytelling with a little added medicine. Lenora.
Since we're still on the topic, couldn't agree more. There were so many people that would say Friends, especially when they were doing a documentary on it, the TV show Friends. When people are really depressed, they just, binge watch a comedy or a series. Duncan made it! They binge watch a series of Friends, or they binge watch something. And so I'm a huge supporter of any place like a skilled nursing facility or anything remotely in that realm. Don't turn on the news. Just don't do it. Just keep playing comedy, and you will absolutely see a massive shift in people for the better.
100%. People think I'm crazy because I love a vast majority of the Pixar movies. Bug's Life and a bunch of those. Emperor's New Groove. They were movies made for adults who had to watch movies with kids.
They were. Now it's a little back and forth.
And holy cow, we got 7 minis left in this hour, and we've only gone through one topic. So I'm going to try and squeeze one more in so we can at least say we did 2, and that's lessons. And the biggest thing about the stories that we tell ourselves from the past that I teach my clients and my students, the only thing that's important about the stuff from the past is your lessons. You don't need all the schmutz. Oh, there's Snacks. Snacks joining us tonight as well. But you don't need all the schmutz and all of the shice that came with the lesson. When you retell the story, simply tell the lesson part. And I had a good friend of mine that I was chatting with about lessons and stuff like that. And yes, I get it. Not all lessons are easy or fun. And sometimes you wish you hadn't taken the red pill. Because when you go back and you start learning these lessons and learning certain things, it's hard to look at life and things the same way.
Yep.
But even then, you still have to realize that your world is your world. And your world will be as good or bad as the things you focus on and the stories you tell yourself and the collection of lessons that you obtain from all of those interactions. And so if you can go back and review your life and all of the things that go with it, and tell yourself, I'm only going to accept the lessons. That's all I'm bringing forward. And one of my clients, I love it when some of my clients come up with their own protocols. And one of my clients, at the end of the session, before I bring them out, they will do a defrag and a trash dump. And they will literally visualize in their head going over their hard drive and eliminating all the schmutz that they don't need, putting all of their lessons in a file that's in an encrypted lesson box that nobody can get to, and then making sure that they clean out the trash bin before they come out. And they'll go through that process at least 3 times. They'll do a defrag, trash dump. Then they'll do another defrag and a trash dump, and one more defrag and a trash dump before I'll bring them out of trance. So they're cleaned up again from the living they've done and the interactions they've had to do with humans in their natural environment, which can be kind of a dirty process. And I don't mean as in naughty, but just picking up schmutz and stories and gossip and negative energy and this and that. And again, going back to the red pill, sometimes it's good to recognize how much negativity and schmutz and stuff that is out there, such as the news and other psyop programmings and all that stuff, and being around negative people. And you look at some of the people that you know that have not figured this out at all, and they're living in the sheer bliss of completely not knowing what's going on.
Yep.
Mike.
Hey, this is really ringing to my core right now. I find that for me, when I'm studying more complicated subjects or whichever, I need to be able to study until there's a natural transition in the information where you kind of go to the next level. Or when people are talking, they'll put down information and then they'll start to define it or embellish it and all that other stuff. I have to stop. And I need to take time to be able to sort that and put that away before we move on, so I can build a foundation for the rest of it to go on to. So thank you for bringing this up.
You're welcome. And one of the things about this is the danger of comparison. Comparison will rob you of happiness and productivity and a whole lot of other stuff. Well, this person this person took that class sitting next to me and they got an A and I got a C, which means I'm dumber than them. No, it means you got a C. It means they got an A. That's all it means. You don't know their background, their thought process, what voices were going on in their head, how they file their information, how they recall their information, all of the above. So stop comparing yourself to others to judge where you're at in your life. Run your own race. All you got to do is complete it. You don't have to be in the top 1% or the crossing the finish line is winning. It's what you do along the journey that tells you how good you did. And the stories and the lessons you bring with. And that ends the first hour. And if you tuned in late and you haven't been on Triple T before, this is where we change things up, and we're in the second hour, so we let anybody on the call gets to bring up a topic or a question, and I let anybody on the call answer first. So we'll see how we start things off this week. Who's got a question or a topic for the group? Even the people who have books full of questions still like to hold up. Holly.
Well, I'll go if nobody else is going to jump in because I do have a question. So I've been thinking a lot about first impressions, because I think one of the big things with using the castle analogy, I think there's some part of me that likes to share my innermost sanctum with people that I've just barely met, or I shut down and don't dare let them on the grounds. I have trouble with that. Hey, here's a dose of me that you get to see, and then we'll see how you treat that, and you can, beat the next level, so to speak. So I guess my question is, if you were to take the highlights that you'd want somebody you're meeting for the first time, what story would each of you want the people you've met to tell about you? What would you want them to know about you? And vice versa, if you're meeting somebody else for the first time, what are some of the best first impressions you've had of other people? And what about that impression really stuck out to you?
Ooh, good question. So, who's got an answer for Miss Holly? Don't all rush at once. We can't hear you talking over the other people. Really? Lenora?
I think we're just all being polite. We're not asleep, I promise. The things that stand out the most to me, it would, to me, oh gosh, you can tell that TJ's been my coach for more than a minute, because the phrase that was about to come out of my mouth was, it depends.
What? I don't know.
It depends on the situation. So like, when I get on a networking call, what am I there for? If I'm meeting somebody at work, what am I there for? Is it I'm getting to know somebody on a different level? That's a different story. And it's so funny because I definitely don't let people in. I do my best to be open the way that I want to be, but I wouldn't necessarily trust them to sit down at the table. They might be able to like come outside the castle and hang out, have a picnic, but they're not necessarily coming in to sit at the table. The thing that I would like to know would be what really inspires them and why does it inspire them? Like, I think about how to help people feel better all day long. I think about that constantly, and it's because I know how shitty I used to feel. So those to me would be the key pieces. And oftentimes, at least for me, if I'm sharing vulnerably or depending on the situation, things that something that will often come up is the fact that I had an eating disorder, and that's why I do what I do. And how that opened up so many different things. Also, how to effectively change things, not just hope for change and, think I'm going to watch a YouTube video and everything will be better. But truly, how to get the changes that you want in your life. Those are the things that really stick out for me in a conversation.
Good answers. Mark. Like, of course, I just took a sip.
Thank you. I was out in San Diego for Identity by Design by Dr. Snyder, and one of the exercises was each person in the group had to come up with, talk about first impressions. These people didn't know me, but they all had an opinion about what I was projecting. Okay, what their first impression of me would be, and I don't know. I talked for a while, or whatever, or we just interacted for a while, and they all wrote down like 5 or so qualities that they kind of read into me. So this was their first impression. I've kept the lists that they gave me. Some of them are like tough, loving, sarcastic, joker, sensitive, tall, teacher, confident, flashy, outgoing, open-minded, expressive, extrovert, seeker. I don't know what that last one is. Quick, assertive, confident, outgoing, driven, open, happy, enjoying, fatherly, joker, quirky, expressive. So every single person among the 5 was getting a different first impression. They were trying to give the vibe, they were trying to, this was an exercise of what your vibe is, what they were reading. And every single one was different. A lot of them were, a lot of them the same, but they were different. Like I said, all those different qualities that we don't even know that we're projecting, and that's usually, I think, where first impressions come from.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ran across all these pieces of paper the other day, so that what their first impression of me was. So, and I was just being me. I was relaxed, I was open, I was, happy, confident, whatever. But this is what I projected outward, but everybody saw something just a little different.
Yeah.
One thought I was a high school wrestling coach. One person. To answer Miss Hawley's question again, these were great first impressions, again, and but everybody had a little bit different first impression, of who they believed me to be. So,
And I still have mine somewhere because obviously I've done that. I've participated in that class a couple of times. Lenora.
I love that you said that and that you pointed that out. I love that you kept that list also. And what's funny is I definitely had what's even funnier, I just realized how different my impression would be had I just met you today versus how I met you. Oh my gosh, do I know you for 2 years now? A year and a half. I think we're on a year and a half. And I had a very different impression of TJ when I first met him. And here's the thing. When I first saw TJ, when I first met Holly, I was like, oh, Holly. Like, I knew immediately she and I would get along. And when I first saw TJ walking across the screen, I was like, oh my God, he's so intimidating. I could never talk to him. Sorry, TJ.
What was that, Greg?
What? No, nothing.
I didn't hear what you said.
I just grunted.
I
I was going to say something funny, but keep it to myself.
Be that way.
When I first saw Guillermo, I was like, oh, no, I definitely will get along with Guillermo. Yeah. So it's so different because I saw Guillermo for the first time in October of 2025. When I first met Holly, it was November 2020. October, November 2020. Yeah, same for TJ when I saw him. I thought that, Elijah was really intimidating to me too when I first met him.
Yep. Anybody else got any input on first impressions? One of the things I wanted to point out, and I know that we've got some research people here. I would like you to look up what was the amount of time that we used to have for a first impression, and what has it shrunk down to? It's pretty scary. Renee put a great comment. For those of you watching the replay, or those of you on YouTube, you don't get to see the comment section, which is another reason for you to join us live. Renee put in there, I always look for, is it truly them, or is it a mask they're putting on for the event? Yes, and there are ways to learn how to see through the mask. And we can teach some of that at another time, but what are you finding for amount of time for a first impression? If I remember right, it used to be somewhere between 9 and 11 seconds, and I think we're down to 5 to 7 now. Mark. Bless
Yeah,
you.
I think, like I said, a first impression, like I said, is, again, the studies show it's like first 30 seconds to 2 minutes, you make up your mind whether or not you're going to like this person. And then everything that goes after it is cherry picked to support that impression. I remember a story that I heard that this guy went to take over this. This is back in the day when there was like a sea of desks that he was overseeing, and he his first impression. This was one lady that she was jumping around. She was going desk to desk, laughing with the other ladies that were doing the typing or whatever they were doing, and his first impression, oh, this isn't a good employee. And the old supervisor, that was his number one gal. That was his best worker. But this guy's, and she was going around getting everybody to sign a card for the old supervisor so they could, say they wanted to wish him well. But this guy's first impression was, oh, this girl is is a social butterfly. She's not a good worker.
Yep.
And it took months for that new supervisor to overcome that initial first impression. So
Exactly.
very important. First impressions are very important.
Yep. Holly, you want to talk about what you found?
Sure. So a couple things. Well, basically, they did some studies for how long it would take, and they discovered that what judgment people made in the first 1/10 of a second correlated almost perfectly with the judgment that people made after, several minutes, several hours. The only difference was if they spent more time with the person, they felt more confident in their judgment, and they didn't even necessarily know they were forming it in 1/10 of a second. But they said that basically it didn't change much. But yes, they say that you tend to, that first impression's 1/10 of a second, but you do give it usually about 7 seconds where you're still bringing in information. Trying to find some old information of what it used to take, that I'm struggling with, but those seem to be the current consensus based on research.
And if you could see how that the time has dropped from, I think it was 10 years ago or something like that, and currently, due to interaction with electronic devices, whether it be internet or social media or stuff like that, they say that we have lost, if I remember right, it was 2 to 3, at least 2 seconds. We've lost 2 seconds of judgment time. And I've been informed of some misjudgments by a number of people. Apparently, a number of people I come off. I don't know what it is about me. I come off as intimidating, even arrogant. One of my former girlfriends, when the very first time she ever saw me, she was working at a Radio Shack in our hometown, and I'd been there many times. She just started working there, but I'd been there many times. I knew the store layout extremely well, and that day I was actually dressed up pretty nice for a different event, and I come walking in, and she was like, "Can I help you find something?" I said, "Nope, I know where it is." Walked straight back to it, grabbed it, walked up, set it down, said a couple of things, paid for it, and boom, out the door. And we had obviously gotten to know each other, and she admitted that the very first time that she ever saw me, she thought I was extremely arrogant. And realized later it was just that I was confident. So, anybody else got any input, ahas, epiphanies they want to share?
Okay. I find that I use the judgment that comes up when I meet people, because I'm from New Jersey, the melting pot, and everybody was biased against everybody else. And I grew up with a lot of judgment, a lot of names for people,
Yeah.
lots and lots of names.
Yes.
So now I kind of use that's still on occasion. There's like this hint, this shadow of something. I see somebody and they remind me of somebody from back east, and that word might come up. And I watch it. Oh, there's a red flag, and that means I have to pay particularly close attention to how I'm being and how I really desire to want to know this person and connect with this person. So it helps me to look beyond the judgments that pop up. It could be anything. It could be their look, the color of their skin, their hair, how they dress, demeanor, any of it. And I find it's just so useful and so wonderful to just allow them to be them and to be as authentic as I can be, because that allows them in a short period of time to also be authentic when they don't feel like they're being judged. They don't think that they're being judged, and they're being accepted, right? And allowed to talk. And I tend to ask questions about them, because the best way to get to know somebody is to ask about them. I think that most people are glad to tell you about them, and in so doing, you can get to know them better without really having to say anything. You just watch them. You can watch their mannerisms, what they say. And then I just gently ask questions, oh, really? Or really, why do you think that? Where did that come from, or whatever. So I think that we tend to be mirrors for other people. And if we look at them with a scowl on our face, or some kind of judgment on our face, they would probably tend to not want to connect with you, and they would be doing the same thing perhaps. So I think that the aspect of authenticity is very, very helpful, and opening your focus like that,
Yes.
you get a better experience of life in general, right?
Yep.
Like if you have this narrow focus and all these judgments, and you don't like because of whatever, how somebody looks, you go, I'm not going to talk to them. They're X. It's like that could be the most wonderful friend that you're about to meet, and you don't get to do that
Yeah.
because it's judgment. So, they can't hurt you. Nobody can really hurt you. Allow them to be. And then like you might speak for a few minutes and go and say, well, this person's really cool. And you look beyond those immediate judgments. Or this person's really not for me. They're whatever. We're not on the same wavelength. The vibe is different. But I more and more and more now I just allow it to happen organically and to expect the best thing that's going to happen in that interaction.
Amen. Couldn't agree with you more. And you guys have well, all my clients and students have heard me say, you're one hello away from a completely different life.
Yeah. Yes.
Stop with the judgment, get to know people.
Yes.
And if they prove that they don't deserve to be in your tribe, perfect. There's
Perfect. Thank
7
you.
billion other people.
And just say thank you and move on.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also love the concept of behind the book, The Millionaire Next Door.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who they are. You don't know their story. You don't know their background. You don't know what they have to offer you or why you've been put in their path.
Right.
Guillermo. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have something else, Greg?
Yeah, just real quick. Sorry, Cameron. I as I've probably said before, more and more I realize that we're all part of the same tribe. We come
Mm-hmm.
from the same castle. When we're home, like everybody on this planet and maybe all the other planets in the multiverse, we're all the same tribe. We're all made of the same stuff, coagulated in different forms at different times. But that's how I look at people. I look in their eyes and go, wow, I'm meeting them again.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how have you been? What's new since we met 4 lifetimes ago?
Exactly.
So if you do that and you look in their eyes, you get this connection immediately because you're seeing them again. Like, wow, you were my mother or my father or my cousin or somebody in another life. I just know that that's true in my heart. There are no strangers. We're just spirits meeting once again. And I really enjoy doing that. And I tell people that, and at first they look at me like I'm nuts, which I mostly am anyway. And they like to hear that because it gives them the chance to remember something about really who they are outside the mainstream. It allows them to be who they are and imagine, well, that could be true. And what if it is true? My life could be very different. I could be freer of whatever the trappings of mind and social conditioning and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
my 2 cents.
No, exactly. Guillermo.
No, I just want to agree with Greg. When I went to the conference in Chicago, I went to an open mind and trying to meet everybody and trying to understand from everybody what is the story behind of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I just learned later when I was having a dinner that everybody was looking at me and what story I was bringing to them. And it was so interesting because I remember a lady came and says, "We've been watching you." And I was like, "Oh, I was watching you." and it was a connection, a just natural, kind connection with many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And other people, they were the same thing. They were connection, but you say, yeah, no. It was something different that it didn't connect with at the moment. And maybe listen the stories and everything and tell your story to them, being open.
Yes.
And low your guard.
Yep.
And says, I'm come here to learn from you how you're doing and how magnificent is this conference. And it was really interesting, but also interesting the connections that, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
when you feel connected, you was connected. It's like, oh, I feel like I know these people for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And do you find that most of the time, if you approach other people with, the gates to your heart more open and accepting and allowing and loving, don't you find that most of the time you have the connection that like maybe 10% of the time it's somebody that there's some bad, like I said, bad vibe or bad energy, or just that you're not attracted for some reason. Isn't it the majority of the time that you do connect when you're being that way?
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And the more you do it, the more it happens. And the more it happens, the more confident you are, and the better you feel. It's
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah. I have either made so many. I make friends like so much, so much of the time now. Or if not, we're friends. It's like we leave as as friends. We may not get together down the road, but we leave with like, oh, like a hug and like, there's just something going on here. Feels so good. Enjoy yourself. It's generally a very, very positive thing. And then the more I do it, the better it feels. So the more I do it, it's great.
Indeed.
And Fran, in case you're being you jumped right in, we're again so glad you're here. Woo! We're talking about first impressions and the amount of time and all that stuff. So, Mark, you got your hand up.
Yeah, first, I wanted to speak to Greg and say, uh, in the movie with Johnny Depp and Alice in Wonderland, she says to him, "You're mad." And he goes, "Yes, the best of us are." So being nuts is not a bad thing sometimes.
It's a good
And
thing to
Guillermo, when I
realize.
got to, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's a good thing to realize, and I think we all have this essence of insanity. I mean, look where we are, and like how we're handicapped coming here. We don't know everything. Intentionally, we're handicapped, so we don't know everything, and we act freaking crazy trying to make our way. So, admitting that you're nuts is like very helpful, I
Sure.
think.
The best of us are.
Yeah, man.
And to Guillermo, the first time I was at Hypnothoughts, I'm walking around and I can just feel the vibe. And I'm like, these are my peeps. This is over 1,000 people who look beyond to see something. And uh, welcome, Fran. I told somebody I belong to an international podcast, and you showing up makes it so. Uh, but I was going to say what Holly had said earlier. Again, again, making a good first impression. Okay, if that is your intent. I don't know if I do this, but I have heard you greet somebody that you don't know like they're your best, long lost best, you know, buddy from high school. Hey, how you doing? Hey, great, good to see you, And, that goes a long way to making a good first impression, I think, you know. And that just popped up, but I wanted to speak to that, again, because we talk about, the impressions that we give, but if you want to make a good first impression, that might be a good way to approach it.
Fran,
My personal thoughts are if you want to make a good impression, it's not about you, it's about them. Give them the space to shine, to be themselves, and then they love you. And you might have only said 2 words, but they think you're the most fascinating person in the world.
Mhm.
yes,
Amen.
power of the trifecta.
Hmm.
Oh, it's a trick. No, it's a gift. Proven it many times.
Yes, it is.
Any other ahas, epiphanies, comments on first impression? Is it time for a new topic or question? You got one for us, Fran? Perfect.
Yes, I think so. We specialize mainly in the mind, and we've all seen physical things that happen with hypnosis as well. And we're all good at anesthetics, pain removal. But what about other things, physical? How much have people indulged in actually getting physical results from hypnosis? I would love your experiences, general well-being or not just pain relief. What else? What else have you made a difference with? What else do you know about that can be made a difference with physically?
Good topic. Holly.
Love this conversation. Can't wait to hear what other people have to say. One instance jumps out in my mind immediately. And I'm just trying to think about, making sure I share just the right amount. But I was working with someone, and this was not the intent, but she had a really big breakthrough. And I kid you not, in front of my face, it was like one of those computer programs. Her face morphed in front of me. It was the most beautiful thing. It was like this, the only way I could describe it is like this amazing healing light. It was more than healing. It was a power. It was a something just like went through all of her skin. And then I just saw like her cheeks got a little bit more defined, and it was instant. A lot of times these things are, oh yeah, over a period of a month I lost this much weight, or whatever. But it was literally right in front of my eyes, and if I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't believe it. But it was so beautiful. Like I said, I think the light especially was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I just saw a piece of her soul. It was just so beautiful.
It's a wonderful experience.
That's why we call it hypnotic facelift.
Ah,
And that's also why I have most of my clients take pictures of their face, many different angles, different expressions. I'll make them scrunch their face and do things before we start doing work because their face will change.
yes.
Who else has got an answer for Fran?
Well, I've just reminded me of an answer as well that I'd temporarily forgotten about. And I'd been working on a lady with Parkinson's disease, or syndrome rather. And over a period of maybe 6 weeks, I'd have on video, there appeared to be a huge difference in her tremors, and her reporting back what she could do for herself physically and what she could not do. However, when I've got all this wonderful data on camera, she decided she didn't want to continue on because I think I know we were at the nitty gritty. And she decided she didn't want to do any more with it. And gradually her symptoms started coming back again. But that's her choice, and I have to respect that.
Yes.
And you want to shake them and say, look, you were doing so well, you were physically so much better. But it's not my business, I guess. And it's her choice, and it's probably not for me to call her on it either.
Just be there if she realizes where she was and where she is again. Lenora.
I love that, Fran. That makes my heart so happy that you were able to see noticeable changes. And I think, yes, for her, but also I think it deepens our level of awareness of how shiftable, how changeable, how modifiable things really can be. And the wasn't there a story, or at least there's been several that people have shared, where you're so close, but it then starts to freak them out
Yes.
because then they see what's possible. And what I have heard is, people will process through that and then they might actually come back to you in like a year or 2 or 3. So depending on where she is or how things advance, but hopefully she comes back sooner than later. And that makes my heart really happy. Things that I've seen in the moment, I've seen a lot of voice change in the moment, from a really short of breath type raspiness to having a much more vibrant voice. And the other one would be fluency. And that was, especially because I started to play with that really early on, that one was mind-blowing to me. And because I was still so early in my awareness and in my skill set, it was, I hope this sticks, I hope this sticks, versus really, had I worked with them now several years later, I would have a completely different focus. Another one for pain, especially when it comes to color breathing, anything in HMR, arthritis yes. Brent has a ton of research and experience in helping people with arthritis. And then if you have more questions about like physical pain, I can connect you with somebody. I don't typically do that, but mostly because I haven't played or experienced that. So I don't have a lot of personal case history with that, but I do know a few people that really work a lot with physical pain.
Fran.
I was reminded with what we've all been saying of the old Dr. Phil saying of, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And sometimes people choose one or the other. And when it comes to things like arthritis, sometimes Louise Hay's, I can't even remember the name of.
You Can Heal Yourself.
That's the one. Actually sort of directs you in target to what you're dealing with, whether it's anger or hurt or sadness or whatever. And it's kind of a guidepost to where you go with your opening up your client and how to deal with it, I guess.
I found this one to be also really helpful. It's by Anna Day Judith, and she also has one that mixes in yoga positions. But this is Eastern Body, Western Mind. I do completely agree wholeheartedly with Louise Hay. I think that one's phenomenal. This one is beautiful also.
Did you put that on the book list on the website?
I did.
Yay!
When I started to do this book list, guys, my book researching went all the way back. I kid you not, to 2003. And I'm like, when did I order that? Where was I? And I was in nursing school when I started to order books from Amazon. So that's how far their archiving goes.
Very cool. Anybody else before I throw in my 2 centavos? Holly.
So I could probably go on, about how hypnosis does the physical, but I think it's also important to remember. So a couple weeks ago, like the whole theme of my week was the importance of balance and working with balance. And we can do the opposite. We can use the physical to get the hypnotic as well. Some of the techniques that I've actually done some training with Egoscue method, which I highly recommend. There's tons of free videos out there on that. Egoscue, that's the guy's last name who came up with it. Alexander technique, absolutely brilliant. Trauma release exercises, TRE. Emotional liposuction is very physical. That one, if you ever watch those videos, just know for some people it can be kind of triggering the first time you watch one because you can almost feel the energy coming off those videos. But even just basic grounding, because the theme that kept coming up for me was hypnosis works a lot on your upper chakras. Like your third eye chakra, all that sort of area. But things like yoga, things like, just grounding techniques and standing up and, imagining the roots going down to the center of the earth, Those
Mhm.
help build the root chakra and whatever. And the thought that just kept coming to my mind is if you're dealing with somebody who has very weak lower chakras and you start doing really heavy hypnosis, don't get me wrong, there's potential there, but there's also the potential to get somebody destabilized. And so it's this importance of training the body and getting into the body and physically grounding the body before you do hypnosis work, so that you're working on both sides of the body and not just, the body and the mind, not just the one.
Great answer. Great answer. Anybody else? Okay, my two centavos. I've helped a number of people with allergies. Allergies are, just like you said, Fran, I've had a couple of them where they went completely off meds, completely off histamine blocker, all that stuff. And then they decided to go back. I said, okay. Another one is sports. I've worked with a number of athletes, and using hypnosis, one of the things that I do with my sport clients is I will have them study the skeletal structure and the muscles. And I tell them, you're not studying to learn them. I'm not going to quiz you on the names of the muscles. It's so that your subconscious can get in tune with how many muscles there are being controlled by your brain, especially if you're in sports. The number of muscles that it takes to throw a ball distance accurately. And when they started realizing the connection between that, one of my clients was a professional baseball player who thought he was coming at the end of his career because he was one of the older guys in the game. And after a couple of sessions, he was throwing stronger and more accurately than he did in his prime. And he was like, he admitted, he said, I've thought about what could I have accomplished if I would have done hypnosis before my prime. I said, yeah, we'll never know, but you can do the best you can right now. Fran.
Thinking of sports hypnosis in particular, though of course it's applicable to many other things, I was fascinated to hear Brian David Phillips talking about sports training with deep trance identification and videos and using virtual reality, because he's right into virtual reality as well, under hypnosis, and just doing repeat and repeat and repeat, and connecting the person to this video of somebody doing whatever movement perfectly. And just in training, and he said that the results were out of this world. So, DTI and sports is good too.
Yeah, including one of the ones that I heard about was NASCAR pit crews. And most people had no idea how hard these pit crews train like athletes, because they're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting, but when that car comes in, it is game on, and they have to move with precision and smoothness. And in this one study, this team coach called in a hypnotist, and the hypnotist was smart enough, had the insight to say, here's your glass ceiling. I've been brought in because you guys are at the top of your game. This is as fast as you can go. You've proven it. Now, here's what I want you to do. Instead of thinking how fast and strong you can move, I want you to picture how smooth you can move, like dancing. I want you to picture when the car is coming down into pit row, the music starts, you all are dancing, and I want you to picture, envision how smooth and fluid can you move when you're doing all these things. But before we do this, now that I've told you how I want you to do it, I want you to write down how you believe it will affect your time. And then he put them through the visualization, all the above, and they timed it, and they shaved, I think it was 15% off their time, which in NASCAR is humongous. And they didn't report the time to the team. They had them do this change 4 or 5 times. So it wasn't just a once off. Called them in and said, okay, so again, what do you guys think happened to your time? Every one of them thought they lost time. They thought they moved slower. And when it was revealed to them, all of them were like, for real, for real, for real? And that's where now of course the word got out. And just like with the, 7-second mile or whatever, once somebody accomplished it, everybody else believed they could do it. And so now NASCAR pit crew times are unbelievable. The amount of stuff they can do to that car in that short of time is mind-blowing. Mike.
Okay, I don't know if I heard it from you or if it was a program that I was listening to on XM NPR. There was a hospital study that after heart surgeries, there were some percentage of fatalities because of, whatever. They didn't really know what it was. And they had gone through, called experts and all that other stuff. And one of the last things that they had done is to reach out to a NASCAR pit crew to have them watch them in the surgery and how to close and all that other stuff. And the results turned out that there was a lot of cross work and reaching over, and it was very ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
And after that had been done, then after that was corrected, then the vitality improved. So I'm just tossing that out.
Yeah. They also proved that playing music, and it wasn't just soft chamber music. It was music that the group, the crew working in the operating room could agree on, improved the results with the patients. Because to them, it's just another day at the office. And when they were taking it too serious, which of course people are like, I want them taking it serious when they're working on me and they got me open. You do, but you don't. You want them to be astute and attentive to what they're doing, but you don't want them to be so rigid that they miss things. Fran.
I'd love to make a comment about humor. And this is something that the general public may not understand, like in the surgery situation. If you can bring humor into a situation, you reduce the tension and mistakes. So for those of you who do or don't know, I'm a volunteer firefighter I prefer to stay in the background now, but I'm part of the team. But inappropriate humor, when you're dealing with something really difficult, or black humor, helps the job go so much better.
Yes.
It doesn't hurt anybody else as long as it doesn't become public what's said. But it's like MASH, you know, the
Yes.
old program, that having that humor keeps you sane, keeps you effective, and helps you do your job. So if ever you hear somebody in an outrageous situation being inappropriate with their humor, it's all for the good. Be understanding.
You don't understand what we just talked about earlier because you weren't here. No, it fit perfectly because I was talking about the power, the medicine in comedy, in laughter, in humor, the healing aspect of laughter in comedy. And yeah, it's so, I think it's so misrepresented or underrepresented. You look at some of the comedians, Betty White, George, with the cigars.
Burn.
George Burns, thank you. Man, those guys, for what they put their body through, but to live that long because they laughed all the time.
It does. The physiology that you get from laughter is very similar to the physiology you get from a wonderful hypnotic trance. It relieves stress. It changes your body chemistry completely. Laughter is so healthful. And since I brought up the, how do you bring healthfulness into hypnosis? Yeah, laughter and learning to laugh. And particularly with trauma release, if you can help the person actually reach a point where they can laugh at what awful thing happened to them somehow, they are over it. So really, laughter is the best medicine.
Thank you, because most of my clients find out very quickly that I'll put them on a roller coaster ride. I will have them laughing their butt off about something horrible that happened to them while they're crying and snobbing and snotting and all the above, and all of a sudden they're laughing, and then they're back into crying, and then they're back into laughing, because every dip they take is another dip down in to clean up all the stuff.
Also, George Burns smoked 15 to 20 cigars a day.
A day, yes.
Yes. I don't know if you've seen this clip on when he was being interviewed by Johnny Carson many years ago. Oh, what a riot. One of the other, and besides he was always in comedy, was that he got to relax.
Yes.
Sit and smoke a cigar. He wasn't on a phone. They didn't have those. He wasn't watching TV. He probably wasn't talking to people all the time, and he just got to relax, right? And the funny part of that interview is, as he's saying that, Johnny says, "Well, what does your doctor say about that?" And in the middle of the sentence, George Burns goes, "My doctor's dead."
Yes, without skipping a beat. My doctor.
Oh, no kidding. Perfect timing, as he was known for.
Yes.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Yep.
And even probably the act of putting something in your mouth like that creates the smile muscles to work, because even putting a pencil in your mouth, if you're feeling down, will change your physiology after 2 minutes. So, if you can't smile at yourself, walk around with a pencil or a rose in your mouth.
Especially a Home Depot pencil.
Yes.
I thought for sure you were going to say make sure it's a number 2 pencil.
Oh, well, that goes without saying.
Come on.
Unless you're a roadie or an AV guy, then it's a Sharpie.
Oh, there you go. A big Sharpie.
Oh yes, for even bigger smiles. Smiles for miles.
Yep, the best medicine.
Which is another reason why more people, there need to be more comedy locations. One of the things on the internet is a dry bar where
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
clean comedy.
Yep.
What a great, great thing.
Yep.
Mark.
Yeah, there was a study done in Kenmore Square, Boston, of all places, and they had asked people to volunteer just for a moment, and they had, they had them list, scale 1 to 10, 10 being high, how happy they were, how sad, how fearful, how anxious, and how angry. And then they had them put a sterile piece of plastic in their mouth and hold it there for 2 minutes. Then they gave them exactly the same sheet with boxes. And they had to evaluate those 5 parameters. And they did like 300 people, and every single person rated themselves as happier after having that thing in their mouth. And that's kind of an old study, but it shows the power of smiling
Yes.
to raise your mood. Every
I
single one.
find, sorry. I find that if I force myself, sometimes I find like I'm not smiling, right? I'm in public. I go to Costco or Vons or Sprouts, whatever. And if I sense that I'm not smiling, I'll just force a smile on my face, and look at people. And when you do that, the people respond to it,
Yes.
right? It triggers them. It gives them something. Gives them permission. Like, oh, that guy looks happy. Yeah, I can be happy too. Like, I wonder what's going on for him. Like it'll switch them too. So, and then just a little smile. Just smile. How you doing? Whatever.
Yeah.
We are very powerful. We can affect ourselves and others in the world in a very good way.
One of the crazy.
Miles are infectious.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the crazy things I learned is doing the I call it the rabbit face, where you go, because I'll get so serious and I'll be so and I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
Someone once said, keep smiling, it makes people wonder what you've been up to.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
You guys make me smile for 7 days, because 3 days in, I'm like, well, that was 3 days ago. 4 days from now, I'm going to get to see them again. Winning!
Definitely. Don't mind me mid yawn.
Oh, no,
I'm sorry,
For
but I
some
do love
of
you
us
all.
early. For some of us, it's early in the day. For some of us, it's a little late in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But
International smiles.
You guys all showed up again. So thank you again and again and again and again and again and again and again, because it means more to me than I have vocabulary to tell you guys. I didn't come up with this idea for me. I wanted to be able to help people. I just didn't think I'd be able to make it interesting enough for 3 episodes. You guys have heard this many times, and here we are at 216 because of you guys. I promise you, I'm still a very basic human being, and if you guys didn't show up, there wouldn't be any more Triple T. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for giving me a reason to show up. Thank you for giving me a reason to share topics, and for all that you guys, your input, your ahas, your epiphanies. For those of you on YouTube, love you, Mom. And for the rest of you, love you guys as well. Thank you for giving me a reason to have a YouTube channel. Who'da thunk it? So, again, if you guys get a chance, go check it out, watch a couple videos, do a couple likes, leave some comments. I'd appreciate it. But biggest of all, thank you for giving up your precious commodity of time, because I can't give that back to you. I would if I could. We'd all be doing a whole lot of fun stuff, but I can't. So here we are. Love you guys. Looking forward to seeing your beautiful faces back here in 7 glorious days. Go out and continue to make the world a much better place like you've done right here tonight. And I will look forward to seeing you then. Bye.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
night, everybody.
everyone.
Great week.
Good night,
Thanks,
all.
DJ.
Bye, guys.
Yo. Thank you, TJ.
You're very welcome. Thank you.